Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to be with you on this Friday.
It's a gorgeous day, I have to say.
Oh, you woke up this morning, it was actually crisp.
Yeah, it was a little chilly, and the sky looks blue, like this River Seine should look.
Yeah.
Mari roasted the French today. Fast start.
Well, they've had a series of arson attacks in France today, so
yeah, people trying to disrupt the beginning of the Olympics.
The opening ceremony is tonight. I think I've confused people a little bit with my lack of juice and enthusiasm about the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is, not that there's 30 Penn Staters over there and so forth, and it's fun to see. But,
agreed.
But I'm doing baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State football training camp starts next week.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball practices are going until, I think, right around August 8 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been busy doing my job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have as much time to watch or enjoy the Olympics like some people do, really get into it, because I can only do it on a catch-as-catch-can basis. So because of that, I'm not sitting there going, oh, hey. It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now I could really be into the Olympics, and there's no way in heck I'd watch the opening ceremonies.
Well, the opening ceremony is going to be starting off, by the way, in an hour. It starts right after we wrap up our show at noon on Peacock.
Right.
So this is one of the few times I'm happy I have Peacock outside of soccer season during the Prem, because I can watch the Olympics. Which actually I'm quite excited to have.
I mean, the opening ceremony, I'm sorry, just like over the years, I've just been like, really?
What I will say,
it's like, okay, they're walking around in a circle with a flag. I got it.
I always enjoy seeing the outfits and what the countries pick. I enjoy it. It's one of those things I like doing, because I've enjoyed watching all the different red carpets, all the different things. Like, I have to. It's one of the things I get to do for work. But I have really enjoyed watching the different Olympic teams come out, all the different nations. It's one of those things as an athlete. It's really cool to watch happen. So I enjoy. I'm
sorry, I'm not a red carpet guy.
That's okay.
I just have never been a red carpet guy. I really could care less what somebody wears on the entering the ESPYs or entering the Oscars. I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I got it.
Yeah.
It's like, just tell me who won. Let's move on.
And speaking of the Olympics really fast, I know we have a lot to discuss, a lot to talk about from Big Ten Media Day and stuff like that.
Well, there's actually a bigger story outside of Big Ten Media Day.
And
go ahead.
I want to start with the Canadian national team.
Oh, is this about the drone?
So they, the head coach of the women's team, Bev Priestman, was suspended because she was apparently aware a drone was being used to spy on different teams at the Paris Olympics. And it is now being reported that the Canadian national team used it during the Copa America, where Canada got to the semifinal round. Right. It is unaware at this time, and Canada Soccer CEO Kevin Blue is stating that Jesse Marsh, the head coach, did not know until after the fact. But regardless, not a good look for anybody to be like, yeah, we were using drones a lot. We've used them in previous things. Not really good. We've seen what's happened with people spying, with getting relays with Michigan and possibilities of that happening. Imagine what it's like using a drone and getting the live footage to use and break down literal film from an aerial view of an entire stadium. It's crazy what this means. And
didn't they get blown out?
Canada?
Yeah.
Canada won 2-1 against New Zealand.
Oh, they did.
They beat New Zealand 2-1 after the allegations came out they used drones. And so they beat them 2-1. It was like, oh boy. Yeah. They did lose in the semifinal round of the Copa America to, I believe, Argentina. But Argentina's a whole different animal to pretty much any team in the world because, spoiler, Messi's a really good player. But now we're sitting with this.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. But now we're sitting with this air of almost uncertainty with the Canadian national team, and especially the Canadian women's team is really good. They were put into a position they could win the Paris Olympics. Now we don't know what the deal is going to be because they have no coach. We have no idea if they're going to end up getting more sanctions put on them in the midst of the Olympics. And going along with that is with the men's team, the men's actual team is going to, of course, be part hosting the 2026 Olympics or 26 World Cup here in the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. And it's going to be a glaring red flag going into that if this is still part of an issue. And it's going to be talked about for 2 years. It's not going to be gone from the media zeitgeist. So, not great.
No, it's... If you're that desperate, that's to me that's the part that's disgusting about it. You're that desperate that you don't have enough confidence in your own people. That's what it means. It means you don't have enough confidence in your team. It may be justified, but that's what, when I see stuff like that, and that goes back to the Michigan part.
Yeah.
Okay. Connor Stallions did not have enough confidence in his own people that they could execute and win on their own. And that's a statement unto itself. And the scouting part of it, again, it's always to the first part of the game. Okay? And people think it's like, in the fourth quarter they made a call. No, you've been sitting up in the box, or in this case, drone footage.
Yes.
Okay? For an hour and a half in soccer, and in football, you've been sitting up there for 2 hours to maybe 2:20 before the fourth quarter starts. At that point, you've got a pretty good feel with your own eyes what's going on. It's the beginning of the match, and it's the beginning of the game, the first quarter of the game, where, you build up a lead, and now they're playing catch-up.
By the way, for those wondering at home, the 2020-2021 Olympic winner in Tokyo was Canada. Yes. They won the gold that year.
Yes, they did.
So they are coming in defending gold medalists in the Olympics, and they have to spy to have a chance. Yeah. This is just insane. It's crazy. Like, the U.S., of course, is favorites. They're really, really good, if we couldn't tell, but they weren't great last time. They came out and stunk it up a little bit, and Canada won. And now Canada's coming into this as one of the likely medalists.
Remember, too, that was for the U.S. Alyssa Nair, Penn State, right, goalie extraordinaire, got hurt.
Yeah.
And that changed the dynamic for the U.S. team. And the U.S. won yesterday. They won 3-0.
They did win 3-0. And Alyssa Nair, by the way, is again on the roster. She is with the national team. They've got a strong team this year. We're feeling real good about it. Of course, the big talking point was no Alex Morgan, but at some point she was going to come off the team. At some point it was going to happen. She's past her prime.
That's right.
Like, everyone should calm down a little bit. This team is really good. Trinity and Rodman's incredible. Sophie Smith is great. Crystal Dunn, Mallory Swanson had a brace. This is a good team. So
I really didn't get too emotional one way or the other. Okay. So, okay.
I love the Olympics. Continue. Sorry.
No, the Olympics are fun. It's just time-wise, I don't have the time to invest in it.
Yeah.
And that's just because of what I choose to do for a job, working. So that's, so because I don't have the time to invest in it, I will watch some, but it's going to be selective here and there.
Yes.
Only because of my schedule. And not because I'm anti whatever, nothing to do with that, zero. It has to just do completely with schedule and time I can invest in it. So now let's get to now we're done with that. Let's get to the important story.
What's going on?
Look for the NCAA to set roster limits, and they should be doing this in a short period of time.
And what are the current roster limits for those wondering at home?
85 for football, 13 for men's basketball, 15 for women's basketball.
And so what is the expectation of the NCAA to set them to?
Well, there's going to be, but the dramatic change is going to be in baseball, softball, and volleyball above all. So this is what they're going to end up doing, at least they think they're going to end up doing. Football will be at 105.
So you're going up by 21 people?
20.
20 people? Jeez.
Did you
I heard 84, not 85.
Okay. I mean,
I didn't. I had a Jason Lord moment on the show. That's my bad.
you went to Syracuse, right?
I did go to Syracuse.
That does explain it.
Of course it does. I didn't go to school for math. I went to school for journalism, Steve.
Oh, God.
So we're going up 20 more athletes on the football roster.
Now there's a pro and con to this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a pro and con. As somebody who's been around more football practices than probably all of you combined, okay, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, not because I'm not right. That's not I get to go. No, I just have.
Of course.
So you know how it works.
Yes.
When they see a roster, for example, of 124, for example, right around 123, 4, 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That is the workable number. Now, in training camp, you're only allowed 105. Okay? So you do work with 105 for the first 2.5 to 3 weeks until classes begin.
And then you cut down.
No, you move up.
Move up. My bad. Sorry. My brain. It's an off day today, Steve. My brain's focused on the money lines between Puerto Rico and Germany and stuff.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Does it affect Penn State? No. No. So this is so that's the workable number. You do have 105 in training camp. Okay.
Okay.
And at that point, people are competing for jobs, and not only competing for jobs, you're always competing for a job anyway. It's not like I've never seen somebody at mid-season move from the practice squad to the travel squad. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're performing that well. But you finally do get to a point in training camp where you break the squad down into the travel squad and the developmental squad. Okay. And you can still move from developmental to travel at any point during the season. You know. But at that point, when you are trying to run a practice, and there you have scout teams, you do need to have that many players. And does this now eliminate the walk-on? Because all 105 are going to get some sort of aid out of this. Does that eliminate the walk-on? I listened to Mac Brown yesterday talk about this from North Carolina. And Mac, of course, Joe held him in the highest regard. I mean, Joe had such respect for Mac Brown. And he said we need to do a better job for athletes. We need to do a better job for fans. We need to do a better job for families. We need to do a better job for the game. All right, but you have to put in parameters here along the way. I think one of the parameters that has to be put in is at some point you'll have to negotiate this out, because this is going to have to be a union thing along the way. But you have to put in a salary cap. I mean, when it is reported that Ohio State spent $20 million on NIL.
Jesus.
Okay. Now I'll break it down for you, because I'll tell you what I was told to break it down.
Yeah.
Okay, $8 million of that. This is from people I know out there. $8 million of that was for transfers.
So 40% of it went to transfers, 60% went to the players who are still there.
Right.
Oh boy.
So this is what happens when two things occur. One, Michigan beats you 2 years in a row. And two, Michigan wins the national championship. Whatever shenanigans they pulled along the way to get there, they still ended up beating them twice and winning the national championship.
It's similar.
Well, in Columbus, those are two galling facts, and people have thrown their cash into it.
It's for so often there's been this almost division fans have in their heads of collegiate and pro sports. Of like in pro sports, if you lose a championship, you go out there, you try and reload and get better to then win the next year.
Right.
And it's felt like in college football, it's not really the same because it's kind of a year-to-year thing, and every team changes because of athletes going to the pros and so on and so forth. But now we're seeing it that, yes, college is becoming similar to the pros, where you see this offseason.
Right.
The Celtics win the NBA title. What do the Sixers and the Knicks do in the East? They load up. The Knicks go and get Mikal Bridges. The Sixers go and get Paul George.
Right.
And they load up because they're going to go and fight the Celtics tooth and nail to win a title.
Sure.
Ohio State is doing the exact same thing.
Right.
They said, we lost to Michigan 2 times in a row, and Michigan won the title. We're loading up, and we're going to slaughter them.
Right. Well, they're loaded up. I still have questions about where they loaded up at quarterback. I mean, that I want to see play out, where I think they're good at quarterback, but I'm not sure how good. Okay? But they want to go 105. All 105 would essentially what these would be increased scholarships, but I believe those are roster sizes.
It's a lot.
All right? I don't think like you 105, you're allowed 105. You're not allowed 106. I believe that these are roster sizes. I want to check with James about that. Number 2, basketball. I think I said this to you the other day that basketball could increase to 15, right?
Which would be big because that's 2 more players.
Right.
It's huge.
15 is the number, which would even it up with women's basketball. Okay. And again, same story. Like, for example, Andy Christos and Dan Conlon were the 14th and 15th players last year, but they were walk-ons, right? Now this would be the same story where those people would get aid. Okay. Baseball is the biggest beneficiary.
So what is baseball at right now?
11.5 or something like
11 to 12 players.
that. In fact, I believe, maybe it's 11.7. I think it's 11.7 they're allowed.
NCAA baseball roster slots.
11.7.
Roster limits is 11.7. Well done. Huh? I confirmed it. I just confirmed it. You know I'm here for Googling.
You're just killing me.
And what is it going to go up to?
34. Which is what a team is to begin with.
Yeah. So we are going full team. We're tripling it just straight up.
Going 22.3 increase. So, softball, which was 12, will go to 25.
Doubling.
And volleyball, and this would be women's volleyball, I assume, would go from 12 to 18.
So
they'd add
0.5.
6.
Yeah.
They'd add 6. Softball would add 13. Baseball, 22.3. Basketball, men's basketball, 2, because women's basketball is already at 15.
And football, 20.
And 20. Right?
It's a lot. That's a lot.
So
there.
what's the first question people around here ask?
May I?
Yes.
Financials?
No.
Oh.
No, the first question people around here, what about wrestling?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are these 5 sports looked at? Because everybody has those 5 sports. So that's why they're the first ones you look at.
Which makes sense. Go for the ones everyone's got.
All 363 schools have basketball. All 363 schools have women's volleyball. Right? A few schools don't have baseball. The vast majority do. Everybody has softball. And, right, and of course in football there are 132, 33 now football programs in FBS. So that's why these are here. Okay? Sports that aren't on this list at the moment, because they're not there yet, are the ones that have, let's be honest with it, probably about 80 or fewer in the country.
So you're saying,
in other words, hey, how many scholarships you want for sailing? Well, nobody, like, well, wrestling only has
so many schools.
74 schools. Wrestling, men's ice hockey. Men's ice hockey's not very, I mean, men's gymnastics has 20.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that we'll go.
Men's volleyball has like 24.
Yeah. So I'm guessing we'll go down the line that it'll be the sports everyone's got, and then we'll go to the next level of sports that, let's say,
it's everybody else.
75 to 90%, and then they'll kind of just tear it down, which makes sense.
Right. I mean, so that's why these sports were the ones that were targeted first. They're the ones that, in mass, are being participated in.
The highest number of athletes will be impacted by these sports. And they'll kind of go down the list. It doesn't mean
wrestling's obviously going to go up. We all know that. Just pick a number. It's just these are the first 5 they're talking about because these are the ones that affect everybody from now, let's take football out of it. The other sports. This affects everybody from Bucknell to Penn State. Okay?
Well, that's not a far drive, Steve. So
I'm just saying, but Bucknell has softball, they have women's volleyball, they have baseball, they have basketball. Now,
it affects UConn to Hawaii.
Right. So it affects all of them. Well, UConn doesn't have wrestling. Hawaii doesn't have wrestling. So, I mean, let's be factual about it. USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, right? Auburn, right? Florida. Okay, they don't have wrestling. Okay, they don't have it. So some of the biggest power brokers in the country do not have it. So they're not there yet in terms of taking care of that yet.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll probably see the soccers of the world, the track and fields.
Soccer,
those will
I'm
be
surprised
coming.
soccer's not on here. Women's soccer in particular.
Those will probably be coming next wave. I'm presuming
That'd be
that
the next wave that they've got to put out there.
Soccer's, track and fields, those level of sports will get the next chunk of this, and so on and so forth. But that is a humongous increase, especially as you said baseball. You are tripling your roster in terms of the number of scholarships.
But this is in reaction to the proposed settlement, which I believe goes to Judge Claudia Wilkin today.
So we should be finding out.
I believe it's today that she has to now begin reviewing and then putting her stamp of approval. I think it's either today or it's next Friday. It's one of the two.
Trying to find out as we speak.
Just I would Google her.
That's what I did. It looks like it is coming in today. So she's getting everything today. So we'll find out in the near future what the deal is.
Again, more doubt.
I never doubted you. I just said I was confirming. That's all I do here on the show. I confirm. I can confirm not all schools have baseball. Syracuse does not because they could not play baseball outside.
Wisconsin does not.
Yeah.
Wisconsin does not. When Pat Richter was the athletic director, they dropped it. You're like, and they never brought it back. They never brought it back. Wisconsin does not have baseball.
Neither does Syracuse, but that's because you can't play baseball when it's snowing through May.
But they have a AAA baseball team.
They do. Syracuse Mets play. It's snowed a few times. I've tried going to games. It's been fun.
Yeah. Maybe Syracuse and Rochester both have AAA teams.
Yeah.
I think the Twins are the Rochester affiliate. Now they were for years with the Orioles.
Yeah, and the Mets are, of course, the Syracuse Mets.
Which makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's something that's going to be, we're talking about the future here, and the impact of all of this will be once this settlement, you expect her to say, hey, look, I asked you to settle, you settled. This should be a case of,
yep, cool.
But she'll do she will do her, she's considered to be a very good judge. She will do her due diligence and have her staff in conjunction with her review it to make sure T's and I's are taken care of and that it meets the parameters of what she deems to be right and fair. But it's going to be approved because, the two sides put their due diligence in and came up with this. Now, it doesn't mean the NCAA is completely out of the woods.
Yeah.
Because there is a case in California, Johnson versus USC in the NCAA. And that's one that you sit back and go, okay, wait a minute. Because this one cleared out, I think, 3 of them. Let me see, Johnson versus NCAA. There we go. Yeah. That didn't take long to come up on the old roster there. 2019 group of then and former athletes led by Villanova football player Trey Johnson. The plaintiff athletes allege that they are employees of their institution. Therefore, the defendants violated the Fair Labor Standards Act by not paying them at least minimum wage. Let's see here. All right, so this is as of July 11th, this story. Let's see. So they say, oh, geez, this is 65 pages. Am I going to look at this? Want to stay in the know about new opinions, Third Court of Appeals, blah, 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 blah. Okay, download PDF. Do I really want to download the PDF?
I mean, if you want to, by all means, go for it.
I really do not want to do that. No.
Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking, Steve.
Okay. I don't quite know what the heck does this say. It's Claudia Ruiz, Jacob Wilbeek, the NCAA, blah, 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 blah. Oh, just tell me what the ruling is. Who cares? I mean, seriously. Nobody cares. So it's on appeal from the U.S. District Court and goes through who argued what. Nobody cares. They care less. You're all getting your cut of the pie here at some point. We affirm in part the district's decision denying the appellant's motion to dismiss. Okay, so it has not been dismissed. They say because the district court erred by applying the test from Glatt versus Fox Searchlight Pictures to determine whether college athletes can be employees, we will vacate and remand for application of an economic realities analysis grounded in common law agency principles. Okay. Okay, that's not... So that's where that is. But it's something that to watch out for.
A lot of court cases, a lot of things.
Well, no,
on.
But this is the one. This is the one that's still left out there.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the one that's been left out there. And so the Third Circuit Court of Appeals left open the question of whether college athletes are or could be considered employees under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Despite the belief by some that the NCAA proposed settlement of House versus the NCAA will end their legal woes, this one is still alive, which we just pointed out. Okay, we're just confirming what we said. The motion, the NCAA filed a motion to dismiss the case using their familiar arguments regarding the traditions of amateurism. Why do they do that? Right? As been the trend for most federal courts in the past few years, the Eastern District of Pennsylvania wasn't buying it. They denied the motion. I know we're shocked.
Steve, if I may, it's like you're thinking the NCAA is being smart. It's like you think they are a stronger thinking entity, and instead they act like me doing bad math.
All right. Now, this does not mean that college athletes are employees. Nor does it even mean that the plaintiffs in this case are employees. However, it does mean that the NCAA will have to once again try to defend amateurism in court. And, of course, they're finding it very difficult to do. So, okay, this is with the USC part of it. Lamar Dawson filed a similar suit alleging Fair Labor Standards Act violations. The suit, puzzling, named only the Pac-12 and the NCAA as defendants, leaving USC out of the complaint. So I had that part wrong. USC is not a part of the complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Pac-12 is down to Oregon State and Washington State. Mm-hmm. In Dawson versus the NCAA, the Ninth Circuit Court affirmed the lower court's decision to dismiss the case, agreeing that the plaintiff was not an employee of the defendants. The court explicitly declined to state that college athletes could not be employees and left it for, quote, another day. The Johnson case departs from the reasoning and rulings of the 7th and 9th Circuit Courts, setting up a clear circuit split, which, of course, is a frequent reason why the Supreme Court gets involved.
There we go.
So back to the 105. Right. This is going to be moving forward part of the response to the settlement. The 15 will be in basketball part of that response. Same story with the increases for volleyball, baseball, softball. Now, why soccer isn't in it, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I know people, and as I said, people are, what about wrestling? People are sitting there like going, hey, look, you got to take care of the masses first.
Yeah.
Okay?
We can't do everything all at once.
Right.
It's impossible.
You got to take care of the mass sports first and then others later. I mean, when your sport has literally 20%, right, of the participation of schools, 20%.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, 80% of schools out there don't have Division I wrestling.
Yeah.
And you have to remember what makes up Division I wrestling. Okay? There are 363 schools participating in volleyball, men's and women's basketball, right? Well, wrestling includes in Division I Edinburgh, Bloomsburg, Clarion, right? I mean, we can go on and on and on of the schools that are not part of the 363. They're not Division I in basketball, volleyball, okay, baseball or softball. They're not Division I, but they're Division I in wrestling. And that's not, they're Division I in wrestling for a reason. They're good. They're fine. Nothing wrong with that. Edinburgh's had champions, same thing across the board. But they are, because you have a series of schools that are Division I in wrestling that are not Division I in the 363. That's where you that's why they're not going to get to that this time around.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they won't get around to it next week either, because they need to increase the numbers, because wrestling is at 9.9, which is just, I mean, no offense, that's always been an absurd number.
Why not just do 10?
Well, it was 11. I mean, I know how they got to 9.9. It was 11 when they cut everything back 10%. What's 11? 10% of 11 is 1.1.
Yeah.
And 1.1. 1.9? Where are you going here?
That's why I don't get the 11.7. Just round up. I get just round. I was taught in school, if it's 0.5 or greater, you round up. If it's 0.49 or lower, you round down.
Okay. So it was 11. And then when they did the 10% reduction, it went to 9.9 because they reduced it by 1.1.
Weird. Crazy. Oy vey, Steve. Is that a fair statement? Oy vey. Across the board for everything.
Now, they'll get an increase, and I would not doubt wrestling gets increased to, I don't know, 25, 30, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is what it should be. If not even more. I mean, I think wrestling has 36. The Penn State has 36 on the wrestling team.
That sounds right.
And what number they come up with, we'll see. But they'll come up with a number at some point. Because, remember, they don't have to come up with the number at this hour. Okay? All this doesn't start for a year.
Yeah.
Right? These are not limits for this season. And then once everything's approved, we'll
see what.
Then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Now,
where'd you want to go with this? I had something I wanted to ask about.
sure.
So currently
The answer is no.
we are 4 days away, and I believe 4 days and like 6 hours away from the MLB trade deadline.
Okay.
And a team that looks to be adding is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are very clearly not going to subtract from the roster. They're going to add to the roster to slowly build up talent. And there's a lot of talent out there that could be dealt, could be traded. Pirates are one of the teams that are looking to add. Is there anything in particular you'd want them to add? Of course, offense would be number one.
Well,
Randy Rosarena's off the board.
Look, they need to have another bat somewhere. But let's go back to yesterday's interview with Bob Nightingale.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot out there.
You've got Jazz Chisholm's like the number one guy,
there's
but
not
like,
a lot out there.
Mm-hmm.
When the Pirates 10 years ago, 11 years ago, added Marlon Byrd. Well, that wasn't like, oh my goodness, they added Marlon Byrd. But they added a good, solid, professional bat, and then he homered in the playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of guy that the Pirates will acquire.
Yeah.
Somebody that they're not going to keep long term. They're going to rent for the last couple of months of the season, but is a good, solid player, but not a big name player.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think they would do.
Yeah.
They're still going to do it within the parameters of their budget, but this is a cycle. And again, listen to yesterday's podcast. On yesterday's podcast, I had Bob Nightingale on. What's available? Not much. There are fewer sellers because of the playoff structure.
Yeah.
There are fewer sellers.
The only sellers that we know about are like the White Sox are selling because they're despicably bad.
Okay, but they stink for a reason.
Yeah. But you've got
They're not good.
Crochet and Robert are up for grabs from them. There's thoughts of maybe the Blue Jays with Vladdy Jr. and Bo Bichette, but there's just...
But they're not going to go out and get
and that's
Bichette
the thing,
or Vladdy Jr.
There are so few players out there that are up for grabs that all of the teams are going to try and get them. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Orioles, every single team is going after the same 6 players. Like, there's only so many guys out there that are going to make a difference, and every team wants the difference maker.
Right.
But that one player can only go to one team. He can't go to 12 teams.
Right.
So it'll be something of note, at least. I just wanted to bring that up a little bit on the show. And
Yeah,
Nightingale, but wanted to discuss a little bit for players out there.
But there just aren't. This is not one of those. Holy cow! The depth of player available. So I'll give you an example. A team that would have had. Let's go back to the beginning of the season. Gee, I wonder how many Houston Astros are going to be available. They're off to a 12-24 start. Since then, the Astros have come on like gangbusters. And guess what? They're not selling guys.
Yeah.
Even though like guy like Bregman, his contract is up this year, whatever, they're not selling guys. And because now they're in the thick of the race. In fact, they may be looking to buy a pitcher because they've had so many injuries to their staff.
Yeah.
And that's something that that makes this. I wouldn't expect there'll be moves made. I would not expect there to be any earth-shattering trades where you sit back and go, whoa, hey, how about that one? That's a game changer. I mean, there'll be some moves made, but nothing that's going to make you feel like, whoa, I just don't sense that that's going to happen. I just don't sense that's going to happen. There will be moves.
Yes.
And for example, if Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s move, that will be an earth-shattering move. If Bo Bichette is moved,
that'll be big.
I mean, that would be an important move. He's a name, but you know,
there's tiers to this, and Vladdy Jr.'s, that'd be big.
It would be.
Mm-hmm.
But again, these guys have been together,
Mm-hmm.
and in being together, they haven't accomplished a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest blow of all was when the Blue Jays 2 years ago got into the playoffs and Seattle beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a blow.
Yeah.
Because the Blue Jays were heavily favored. And the Mariners just went in and just beat them. Now, the Mariners need a bat.
Yes,
okay?
so they got Randy Rosarena.
Right.
That happened overnight.
Which helps. And because Rodriguez, for example, has not had a great season.
And he's hurt right now.
Yeah.
Crawford is hurt as well. So they're in a bit of a funky position. It's the best way to put it.
And so Rosarena comes over in the deal. There are going to be people looking for pitching. The Pirates don't really need pitching.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it always doesn't hurt to have maybe an extra arm out there, but I think it's fun that they are. They're 2 games over 500.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fun that they are in a position where people are thinking about buying.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the ace of all aces in Paul Skeens, which is tremendous.
Big time.
Yeah. But they're also a frustrating team to watch because the lack of consistent offense is a problem. I mean, that's the problem, the lack of consistent offense. Every once in a while, they'll break loose and they'll have a really good offensive game. And Brian Reynolds, to his credit, has been, especially the last couple of months, terrific.
Yeah.
But they've got, I know everybody loves O'Neal Cruz. I mean, look, no offense. I'm just not really, really big on analytics guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's an analytics guy. Oh, look how hard the ball comes off the bat. I'm like, okay, great. How about hitting? How about going out and hitting 280 to 300 and driving in some runs and doing something like that instead of now I know his average is picked up. What is he's got to be at least 240 now, right?
Let's find out. Brian Reynolds.
No, I'm not. Brian Reynolds is really good. I'm talking about O'Neal Cruz.
O'Neal Cruz.
Look how hard he throws the ball. Okay,
O'Neal Cruz is sitting at an average of 250 right now.
Yeah, so he's over 240.
Yeah, he's at 250. Key Bryan's at 238. Brian Reynolds at 288. McCutchen 226, amongst others.
Okay. And the I think that they need to, getting a bat of some sort, and even a bat, for example, that you can DH once in a while, and kind of use the rotation of in a DH with McCutchen and so forth, where somebody's playing the field. Yeah, I think that'd be great. We'll see what they do between now and then. It's just not a depth of talent out there that will be available in the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And the other question is, what do you want to give up?
Because to get anything, you must give up something. And what the something is going to be a question. Rosarena just went for a few prospects and a few players.
Right.
So,
and how deep is your system? The Yankees will make some sort of move. I mean, the Yankees need offense.
The Yankees, we need offense like yesterday would be really great because this team has just, I think, fallen off a cliff is being kind.
Well, I think a couple things have happened. Rizzo got hurt.
But he wasn't playing well.
But Rizzo wasn't playing well anyway. DJ LeMahieu
has been bad.
Has aged before our eyes. Bat got slow. And that's a problem.
It's pretty much been Judge and Soto carrying this team.
Yeah.
Volpe's not been great this season with his bat. Glaber's not been It's pretty much been the Judge and Soto show.
But Gleyber Torres has never been. He's one of those inconsistent guys where he makes you think, okay, and then all of a sudden that'll be for 2 weeks you're like excited, and then for 2 weeks you're depressed.
Yeah, he's batting currently. He's hitting 232. Verdugo's hitting 228. And you're like, this is just rough. Volpe's at 250, which is at least like okay. And then you've got all of a sudden this catapult to the 300s for Judge and Soto. We're at 307, 311, and they're just cranking out home runs every other hit.
That's right.
And you're like, this is great. This is incredible. Giancarlo is sitting at his 250-ish pace with 18 home runs. You're like, okay, that's what we're going to get out of Giancarlo Stanton. But it's just the Yankees have to rely on Ben Rice. And Ben Rice, cool, great kid, love the story. Yeah. We should not be relying on Ben Rice to do anything for us. And the fact that he is who we are relying on to hit home runs and to do anything offensively feels criminal. And now we'll see what happens with the Yankees. The rotation is interesting. Rodon, Stroman, Nestor, Luis Gil, like with Garrett Cole, of course, whatever the deal with him is. Like, it's just a lot of weirdness across the board. The Yankees are going to add a bat somewhere. I would presume they're going to add someone to swap LeMahieu out for, because he has just been diabolical as being kind.
Yeah. No question.
And a few years ago, he was incredible.
Okay, I mean, if I'm Brian Cashman, in the off season, you always have to turn it back. All right. And when you turn it back, would you have kept DJ LeMahieu in the offseason? I would have, because
everyone would have. No one thought this drop-off was coming.
Right. So
he's gone from being incredible to being bad. He's batting 179 right now, to be exact. He's got a home run, 12 RBIs. Not good. Not good, Steve. I again, this is us saying it like I could not do what he does. But
no, Bob, you're trying to make Verdugo.
He's been bleh. He got off to a good start, and then he leveled off dramatically. It's just been Judge and Soto just doing the most.
Yeah.
They are crushing it. Volpe's been okay, but it's pretty much been Soto and Judge just hitting home runs. Judge is up to 35 now, for those wondering at home. That's pretty much where this team is.
Yeah.
It's going to be how many home runs can you hit? And the only positive, I guess, has been that the Orioles also haven't been doing too hot.
Right.
So they're a game back or 2 games back of the Orioles right now. Boston's 6 back. The Rays are, of course, now trading off players. They're at about 500. Blue Jays are below them. We'll see what happens with Vladdy and Bichette and everybody else. You're sitting like in an okay position if you're the Yankees. The fact that you've been so bad,
right?
Like, you've still managed to keep yourselves afloat, which could be worse.
Yeah, but you have a payroll that is so high that you sit back and say, look, are we getting bang for the buck? You are not getting bang for the buck.
Nope.
In the least. And the problem is you do have a star who is a great regular season player. He is not a good postseason player yet.
And the postseason player you want to have, the bill has not come due on him yet. Juan Soto is going to cost a pretty penny, and that bill is going to come due in the next few months, and it's only going to make this a billion times worse. Or, my bad, $700 million worse.
Right.
Like, he's going to cost a lot. And the Yankees are in pole position to sign him again, but who knows? He could get a huge offer from San Fran or from Boston or from anyone else and say, you know what?
You know what's interesting?
New York, thank you, I'm out.
It's interesting about San Francisco. They make high bids on everybody.
They do.
And they don't get players. Now, it looked like Carlos Correa at one point.
And then the whole Correa
something
thing happened.
Crazy happened.
And speaking of teams making bids, I don't know if you heard about this, but I saw this story. I don't know if it's been discussed a lot. Was apparently the Tampa Bay Rays, when Judge was a free agent, quietly made an offer to him that was really good, really compelling.
Yeah.
But the money then came from the Yankees. Said, you know what? I will stay with New York. But apparently, because everyone was like, oh, he's going to go to the Giants. Apparently, it was the Rays he was going to go to, which would have broke the Yankees' souls. It would have broken my soul. Going to the division rival who never spends money, all of a sudden them chucking this money at Judge would have been a gut-wrenching feeling.
Yeah. So that's where they are. Okay, now we're going to give you the stat of the day.
Ooh.
You're going to love this.
I love me a
NFL
statistic.
stat. I'm going to give you a list of quarterbacks. Tell me which one has the most playoff wins.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Mark Sanchez, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. Who has the most playoff wins as a starting quarterback?
Can you say these names again so I can just type them out for myself?
Lamar Jackson,
Lamar,
Dak Prescott,
Dak,
Kyler Murray,
Kyler,
Mark Sanchez,
Sanchez,
Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins.
All right, so immediately I'm taking out Dak.
Right.
Cowboys don't win, so Dak is gone. I will take out Kyler. I don't think they've done pretty much anything in the playoffs with him.
Right.
So he's out. Carr, I don't think has done almost anything in the playoffs. So we're process of elimination here. So you're left with the Sanchez, Lamar, and Cousins. The Sanchez made a couple back-to-back runs to the championship games. So that's of note.
All right.
I don't know how many Lamar has won. And Kirk has won a few. I'm going to go with Mark Sanchez, Mr. Butt Fumble.
Well, it's more than you think. Mark Sanchez has more playoff wins than Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, and Kirk Cousins combined.
Nailed it.
No, combined.
Yeah. I was like, there's going to be something weird here.
Cousins has never won a playoff game. Carr's never won a playoff game. Murray has never won a playoff game.
Dak's won one, maybe.
And Lamar Jackson's won a couple.
Yeah.
Mark Sanchez has more playoff wins as a starting quarterback than Jackson, Prescott, Murray, Carr, and Cousins combined.
And how much are Carr, Cousins, Kyler, Dak, and Lamar getting paid this season combined collectively? A lot of money.
Oh, they're making cash. There's no doubt about that.
By the way, with training camp underway, talking about Kirk Cousins real fast. I know we discussed it.
He's coming off an Achilles, so I don't know what to think of where he is right now.
Not discussing that part. Just the I know we discussed it when the draft happened, and I know he's coming off this injury. I still, to this day, do not get drafting Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick after you just signed Kirk Cousins at all. I still don't get it. There is no logic. Everyone's been like, oh, but you can have Kirk for 2 years and then trade him away and then make Penix a starter. That makes no sense to me still. Like, I get the whole money thing, but that is, you are trying to win a championship, bring this guy in to be a championship quarterback, and you're like, great, you're our guy. Right. But we have the guy behind you right now. Like, the whole Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers thing, it's not the same as this because Favre was there for a while and he was older. This is... We're bringing this guy in brand new a week later. Oh, here's his replacement that's going to replace him in 2 years' time. That's ridiculous.
Wes Durham, and I played a couple of rounds of golf with Wes out in Columbus.
Broadcast voice, incredible person.
Right. And he's also the Atlanta Falcons play-by-play voice. And we were all asking him about Penix. He says, we're all kind of sitting there like, well, okay, they got Kirk. They don't need a quarterback. And it's Michael Penix. We all looked at each other like, really? It's like, okay.
I just don't get it at all. And I still don't. And now there's questions, and it's apparently only Kirk is going to take first team snaps. Penix and Ritter are both taking second team, or whoever their backup is.
Ritter is going to be a career. He's exactly what I thought he would be. I mean, I love that people jump on bandwagons because Ritter got Cincinnati the playoff and whatever, and then the playoff game he looked like Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
I said he's going to be a career backup. Well, that's what he is, a career back. He's not going to be a guy where you sit back and go, boy, if we acquire him, I think we're on
and
track.
You know what? that's okay. Because being a career backup is not a bad
that
thing.
means you cash checks. You're fine. And not only that, you're not getting beat up.
Chase Daniel was the Saints' backup quarterback forever. He was a backup QB in the league for quite some time.
Yeah.
He would come in, play some games, do great. Ryan Fitzmagic, Fitzpatrick himself, was incredible. He's joked like, yeah, I'm the greatest backup QB of all time, because he would come in, do his job for a few games, leave, get paid, be a backup, and so on and so forth. And it pays a pretty penny.
It's beautiful.
And you're in the league for, 9 years, I beve. You get all of the NFL perks of...
Well, that's why.
Like, it ain't bad.
Well, what's interesting is that running joke that Jack Ham and I have is about Cliff Stout. He says, Cliff Stout, he says, for 2 years, never got in a game and got 2 rings.
Yeah.
I remember he got frustrated and he finally signed with the USFL.
Yeah.
Right, and he played with the Birmingham Stallions, I think, or something like that. It wasn't when he played. He actually was pretty good. He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad.
You know what was pretty nice? Being the backup quarterback to Tom Brady. Guys like Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett, and Matt Castle, made a career on just being there to help whenever Tom was done with the game.
Yes.
And then Matt Castle played 1 year. He led them to the playoffs. He played okay and got paid.
Because Scott Pioli had been with the Patriots as their capologist and became the general manager of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
He then signed him.
And you know who else the back QB? Jimmy G. He got paid. These guys, you do your job, you are there, and I may only get one shot at this, so as soon as there's an issue, I will do the most I can.
Yep.
You get paid a good chunk of money, and you get to relax.
Right.
And are these guys competitive as all get out? Yes, they want to be starting, but at the same time, there's only so many jobs available, and only so many spots they can fill at any given time.
Yeah.
Like Carson Wentz is the backup QB to Patrick Mahomes this season.
Right.
He's not going to start. He knows that, but he's going to make a nice chunk of change and sit behind Mahomes and help him out where he can.
Sure. Yeah. Look, Chad Henne's retired. Chad Henne, and he started at times in the course of careers, but he made a nice career out of being a backup. When he stepped into Kansas City, in the latter stages of his career for Mahomes, he played well.
Yeah.
Wasn't not awesome and incredible, but he played well. And he ended up cashing a lot of checks during the course of his lifetime and career. So that's being a backup quarterback is not a bad. Now, people, look, you have pride. You want to play. I mean, you do want to play. Yeah. There's that pride part of it that steps in saying, hey, look, I can do this.
And sometimes, like the Niners saw, it's good to have a lot of quarterbacks because all of a sudden injuries happen, and it's good to be there in case you need to.
Brock Purdy was the third guy, and suddenly he ascended to the top, and then nobody could get past him.
And now they might pay him $300 million. Things happen.
That's why this Ayuk thing has been so interesting, because if you're going to pay people in San Francisco, now's the time to do it because your quarterback is on a 7th-round contract. You don't have to pay him yet, even though the clock is running to the point where you have to pay him. But it's the teams that, that's the Cowboys. This has been amazing how the Cowboys never realistically took advantage of Dak Prescott's 4th-round contract. They never did.
And the Bills are going to come do with them real thick and fast this season.
Well, no, with Prescott, they've already had to pay him and so forth.
Yeah.
But they're the first 3 years, their quarterback was in the Russell Wilson position. Yeah. Wilson was a 3rd-round contract, and Seattle took advantage of it.
Big time.
Re-signed the secondary, made a couple of free agent signings.
Marshawn Lynch, got everyone they needed to.
They got it right. They're all set. Right? Dallas didn't do that. They had their quarterback on a 4th-round pick. Now, the Eagles, to a point, did it because they had their quarterback on a 2nd-round contract. Now they've had to start paying him. Yeah. And that's where Green Bay is with Jordan Love. That's one thing about waiting. Okay? It benefited Green Bay to wait a bit with Favre to Rodgers. They used the same plan with Love. Love finally gets his chance last year. To his credit, terrific. But the problem is he wants to get paid now.
Yeah.
Because he's now deep enough into his contract where you have to do something, which means Green Bay could not fully take advantage of their starting quarterback, right, on a rookie contract. Now he's a first-round pick.
Yeah.
As opposed to Hurts being a second-round pick, Wilson a third-round pick, Prescott a fourth-round pick. But still, that's one thing the Cowboys never took advantage of in reality was their quarterback early on in his career being a fourth-round pick and saying, okay, let's get some parts around him now while we're not paying him.
And sadly, they're going to have to pay him a lot more money.
Well, they're already paying him a lot of money.
But they're going to pay him even more.
Yep.
And CD Lamb is holding out. And who knows how much money Micah Parsons is going to get. It's going to be a lot of money for those three.
Right.
And they're in a bad position. But speaking of quarterbacks who are going to cost teams a pretty penny later and not get their full contract value worth, I guess, Michael Penix Jr.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.